Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Kill the noise and cut the static. Broadcasting from high in the mountains of West Virginia, we're leaving the 9 to 5 in the rearview mirror. The engine is warm, the lights are green, and it's finally time to shift your Wednesday into overdrive. And now, here's your host, Diego the Podcaster.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, our guest brings the raw energy of mid to late 60s garage rock and the thunderous riffs of 70s and 80s heavy metal with a dynamic mix of alternative and grunge. This diverse blend of styles has forged a musician who embodies the past while carving out his own distinct path, earning him the titles of the Pennsylvania Purveyor of Rock and the new Prince of Darkness. All this plus more. Please welcome our good friend and one of the hardest working people I know, GrimRock. GrimRock, my friend, welcome back to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
Hey, I appreciate you having me back. This is great. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to have you back to finally, schedule you for another interview. Last time I spoke to you, and the reason we haven't had you back earlier is just how busy you've been with all these shows and traveling out of town, and then also creating and recording new music.
Mm-hmm.
Last we spoke was around mid 2025. I sure wrote down the month. I want to say it was right about this time last year, perhaps. And you were already on the road hitting the highway and doing your thing as GrimRock always does. Catch us up. How did the rest of 2025 go? Where did you go and what did you do?
I'm trying to think. It was pretty busy. I don't know. I had a bunch of shows and just a bunch of podcasts and things. And, I started working with a different studio and stuff for the next album. And I got a pretty good run into 2026 in the beginning of 2026. And then had a lot of things change with my regular work, and kind of just really put me behind this year. But I'm still playing shows and traveling. And, I was in New Hampshire and over in Salem, Massachusetts and over in Ohio. I just been a little bit everywhere, going to be making new music and got some shows and stuff coming up. So trying to keep busy.
No, and that you are. Now, out of all those locations that you mentioned, which one of those were new for you?
Oh, the New Hampshire one was definitely new for me. It was great. I got to go. I was actually in two places in New Hampshire, and one was for a radio station on the Matt Connerton Unleashed show, and it was in Manchester, New Hampshire. And then that night, I drove just south of Manchester back to Nashua to play a show, and I played with a band called the Melted Chapsticks. I'll give them a shout out real quick. They're some cool people, man.
And well, I must ask this because I love what you do as far as also the look, your gimmick, and your music. I'm gonna compare something to with like not the same, but similar to the lucha libre wrestlers, right? They don't go anywhere without their masks. Does GrimRock go anywhere without the face paint, especially going to shows?
Oh yeah, I travel to and from. So if I have to stop at a gas station or a store or something, I do go in like this. Where do I get looks? I get everything from It's Not Halloween to kids running away to people trying to take pictures and stuff. And it's really cool. You know what I mean? I've only ever had one time that I thought I was going to get arrested, and that was stopping to get gas in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I come in, it was late. And when I come in, the guy had his hand under the counter. I was like, no, man, I'm just trying to get some gas, get home, brother. But he already had his hand ready. He probably thought he was, getting something bad happening. But I talked him out, I talked to him for a minute, and I went out and got my gas and took off. You know what I mean?
No, I can definitely understand the reaction, but it's funny now. I don't think at the moment it might have not been that funny.
No. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I got photo ID. It doesn't look like me, like probably gonna get tased and drug away and stuff, like I was thinking all the terror possibly happened at that point, but it didn't. I'm thankful for that.
Oh yeah. But now if this would have happened, it would have made for some great songs, for the experience.
Oh yeah, it'd have been great for social media for sure, and for some music and lyric lines and but I'm glad it didn't happen. No matter the storyline, I mean,
Yeah, it's one of those harder to explain to the rest of the family. So what happened? Well, I got tased and I got the old baton to the head.
yeah. Well, I was painted leaving from a show.
Yeah, but no, that's you know what we do the things we do for the things that we love.
Hmm.
And speaking about that, because we pretty much 2025 obviously is pretty much over. We're almost 2026, more than halfway there at this point.
Hmm.
How did 2026 start with you for you? Because I know you're always busy, but I know that you always got a lot of different things on hand, but you don't always mention them until you after you've done them.
Sometimes it depends. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll throw out a little bit of stuff, and sometimes I'll wait. It really just the situation depends. Person that I'm doing it for, how they want to promote too. I don't want to overstep boundaries for somebody too. You know what I mean? Get a level of trust with the people that you work with, and you want to keep that level. No matter what. So sometimes it happens to be earlier. Sometimes it has to be later. Sometimes it's the same day. I've got calls for shows to come the next day and had to post something like right then and there. You know what I mean? But 2026 it started out, pretty good. I got Cast a Shadow got out. I did that at Rhythm House Studios in Charleroi, PA, and from there I was like, I had all kind of stuff lined up and planned, and I was going to do this, that, and the other, and then work happened. You know, Changes with work and the amount of hours we're working and stuff's kind of tough sometimes. But I still ended up, getting a good bit of shows and stuff and some bunch of podcasts and lined up a bunch of trips, so it worked out.
It definitely did. I always keep track of what you're doing on socials, and we send messages back and forth when we're not busy, and
Hmm.
it's kind of cool because I like following up with you, and I like how we both kind of just even with the metal signs and the and the hearts and the likes on our social media, it makes a big difference to those who are putting in the work that somebody's paying attention and somebody's actually going out there and supporting the things that you do.
Hmm. Oh, I try because I mean, you guys are supporting, anybody that's doing the positions you are, the venues and stuff, they're supporting us. So I mean, we got to do the same back. I mean, it has to be hand in hand, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, this doesn't work without everybody helping each other. Although
Absolutely.
if there's no support, it makes it just that much harder.
Hmm.
And with talking about 2026, each year we all learn different things. Technology changes, our experiences changes. We learn new things. We stop doing old things that doesn't work and new things that do work. Now, being that you've been doing this for a very long time, and then we just, like I said, got past the 2025. Has GrimRock changed anything for 2026? Have you learned something new that you haven't done in the past?
Yeah, I think the studio experience, that really helped me out because it's been a long time since I've been in an actual recording studio, and being I'm a solo artist and I record all the things myself. It was really nice to have some guidance, somebody to bend my ear a little bit. Hey, do this, try this, you got to do this over, kind of thing. And, I'm thankful for that. But it also brought me to a point where I learned that my sound had altered, being in the studio setting versus my, say, GR5 with Haunted, you know what I mean? Or one of those tracks, I always feel it's a little bit too polished and it's not that I don't like it, you know what I mean? It's really different sounding than, and you can tell it's me, it's still grim, you know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing I took from the whole thing was, it was nice to have the guidance, but I kind of really just like the raw sound that I had before, so.
And and mentioning that you're a solo artist, obviously, for those who go on your social media, definitely check out what it is that you're doing. We do have a little bit of help from other people at times, but with all the work that you put into Grimrock and your music, have you been surprised of any of the areas where people have heard of Grimrock? Have you been getting contacted with people, outside of the country? Are you surprised by any of the posts or emails you're getting?
Well, a lot of my early support was actually outside the country, believe it or not. Pennsylvania Purveyor of Rock, New Prince of Darkness. Those are actually coined by a radio station in the UK. In 20, I don't know, 23 or 22 or something like that. You know what I mean? And that same radio station, they do awards every year. And I actually was nominated for Best International Male Artist of that year. I think it was 22 maybe. And although I didn't win it, you know what I mean, it was still, really crazy to be in that kind of, crowd, getting that kind of play. But a lot of my stuff early on was is all international. Now it seems like it's spreading out more in the U.S. and I'm getting a lot more, support here. You know what I mean? So, but I've experienced on both sides.
And with that support and the amount of exposure, a lot of that is you, but how much of that goes into, do you have an agent, or is Golden Robot Records also doing their part? And I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying it because, uh, like me, for instance, sometimes I hit a wall. There's always so much I can do. I have to reach out for outside help for certain things. Who else assists you with the promotions and getting your brand out there?
It's mostly me. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's nice that I have the label. I got some under distribution side. So when it comes to new music and stuff like that, then for sure I get promotion from them from that. But outside of that, I do pretty much everything myself.
How do you handle the stress level? I mean, I know what I do, and it'll take forever for me to explain it to you. It only makes sense for me. So, what is that you do on your downtime to just decompress from the stress of everything that you're doing?
Really, it's pretty simple. I got a family, I got kids. I turn the focus around on them. Do my duty there. I have a regular job. I know it's stressful there too, but it's crazy because even the stress that I get there takes away from the stress of doing the music. You know what I mean? And then I'll sit and listen to music endlessly, which is crazy. You would think you don't want anything to do with it once you playing it over and over again and listening to it over and over again. But no, I really listen to a lot of music even just to unwind.
Oh, now I gotta ask, what are you listening to?
Believe it or not, it's all 60s garage rock and disco, 70s disco and 70s funk, 80s new wave, 90s grunge. I listen to a lot of stuff. I have a pretty crazy playlist. If somebody would ever jump in my ride and ride with me, they'd be like, "What is wrong with you?"
I mean, nobody would guess my playlist either. Every once in a while, we had those guilty pleasures. Kind of, kind of telling on myself. We're going back in time, back in the '80s, where everybody was in sects of, we were kind of like gangs in a way. You were either listening to thrash, glam, or everybody was sectioned off in different things. So I would be the kind of guy that say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm listening to Testament. I'm listening to Slayer. Ah, yeah, screw the glam guys." At the same time, I'm at home spinning around my Vinnie Vincent records. So it's not Vinnie Vincent Invasion of all things, but nobody would really guess what it is that I'm listening to on my downtime either. I guess that would be the same thing for you, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could guess like any given time what I'm listening to because it's just so many different genres for so many decades. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in a way, I kind of blame myself because I was like, I miss out on a lot of cool stuff just trying to be cool for other people. I actually just enjoy music for what it is.
Yeah, it's a great tool, to just sit, listen, relax, learn. There's so many things you can learn from just listening to music in general. The types of changes, the tones, even the sonic part of it. The choruses, how they roll through. It's a very basic thing, how it makes you feel. For just the casual listener. You know what I mean, versus the musician. Who's actually looking for technical stuff. Like, wow, that change was ridiculous. What do you do? But yeah.
And I think in those times, because I guess every decade's the same thing. You have a lot of bands that are really awesome and don't get the credit they deserve, and then some who I think are maybe just okay and they're out selling arenas.
Hmm.
Now, I have a guy at work who's a guitar player and a very good one. He always tells me you got to start listening to these things that you probably never heard of before. One of the ones he recommended to me, and Dick Dale.
Hmm.
And I started listening to this, like, I can't believe somebody was doing this back then.
Oh yeah, that dude was he was ridiculous on the guitar.
Yeah, you know, I can sit back and listen to it all day long, but it's one of those things you never know. That's why I started going to shows more now, started getting out of the house and just start enjoying things.
Mhm.
So with your currently right now, you recorded you were in a studio, and now that you're creating new music, where are you drawing your powers from now? Because I know we talked about the background of your music. Is there something new you're drawn to that's kind of helping you influencing your style, or are you just trying to do something different that GrimRock hasn't done before?
I think it's mostly a lot of inner stuff from like the frustration of how the year went. Right? I don't feel like I accomplished enough. You know what I mean? Just a lot of stuff that's affected me through the year. It's kind of built up, and this new track that I'm actually going to be doing is I sat down and it was like 2 hours. I was pretty much done with it because it just came to me because I was in that state of mind. You know what I mean? I got frustrated and broke the guitar out and I just started playing a riff and I was like, man, it's pretty all right. Just recorded it and started writing some words for it that just made sense to me. You know what I mean? And hopefully other people can draw from too. It's going to be called "My Name Is Fate." Actually, is what the name of the track's going to be called. So
And now some of these risks sometimes comes out of thin air, and it also comes out of life experience as well. You talk about that frustration. You just picked up the guitar and you started wailing on it, and it's like, oh, something came out.
mhm.
Now, is there anything that you've recorded that has not seen the light of day yet?
Yeah, I have a lot of like starter tracks. I have like 25 or 30 starter tracks with a lot of different types of music. And it seems like when I start a project like I did with GR5, I had this state of mind that was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do an album. It's going to be 10 tracks, 12 tracks, whatever. I'm like super ambitious at the very beginning. You know what I mean? Then as the time goes on, and I'm like, I'm struggling with things and just trying to, get stuff together. Then it was like, oh, it's going to be an EP. I'm going to put 4 tracks out, and that's that. It ended up being 8, only because of a lot of things that really changed what I did, that really influenced how the album fell in the end. And I'm really grateful for the people that were involved with GR5, all of them, because if that didn't happen, that thing would have been a 4-track EP and nobody would even probably listen to it. You know what I mean?
Right, and then well, it's a good thing that you have all those tracks somewhere laying around. Now, was there one in particular during that time that surprised you so much and saying, "Why didn't I follow up on this, make a song?" And eventually you might have done it, but is there one that stood out that said, "Oh my god, I should have just recorded this a long time ago"?
Well, I think the one that I always talk about is from GrimRock Radio. It's actually the track GrimRock Radio, because that originally started out as a junk acoustic riff, and I actually opened up a TikTok with it originally, and it was just a throwaway track. It was just something to open up TikTok, that was it. And at the time, I was trying to find out, like, I was trying to put together a grim themed song. You know what I mean? Iron Butterfly had the Iron Butterfly theme. Like all these people had their own thing. Back in the day, and that's what I wanted. I wanted something like that. Something that had the word Grimrock in it. Something that people can maybe sing to, chant to, whatever. And later on down the road, man, I picked up the electric and played that riff and altered the second part of it. And then there you go. You got GrimRock Radio. Conversely, the track that I actually tried to do the GrimRock thing to ended up being a track, an album later or an EP later. It was called Strange Wanderer, believe it or not. So I actually ended up using both of them.
And you mentioned kind of like having an anthem that pretty much identifies who Grimrock is and what it's all about.
Hmm.
Let me go back to the part you said TikTok and you started using that song.
Hmm.
Every social media, I would say company because you have Facebook, which is you have IG, you have Twitter X, and then you have your TikTok. Every single one of those platforms seems like it performs very different compared to the other ones as far as getting the most outreach and getting the most attention from fans and followers. Out of all those platforms, which one has performed for you the best?
Believe it or not, Facebook. I have no idea why. You know, I've tried to sit down and figure it out. You know, at the very beginning, I started using Twitter, X, whatever, when it first, when I first started this stuff, and that's where a lot of my people that I talk to or make connections with at the very beginning were, and I'm still on there. You know, and I still have a good many followers on there. You know, and I try to post on there, but I'm not as frequent on there as I am Facebook or Instagram. You know, and then Facebook was kind of stuck there for a while at like X amount of followers, and you know, one day it just opened up. You know, and like I'm like, wow, you know, and even just recently, it just like picked up again, like no rhyme or reason. I mean, I really haven't changed anything or how I post it or what I post or whatever. It's just it's just content of what I done today, feel today. You know, something coming up, something that you can go back and listen to, like a throwback. You know, something. And I've never changed that. And for whatever reason, it's working again. So I couldn't tell you. I don't know how that stuff works.
Me neither. Algorithms are something else. You know, when I first started doing podcasting and on Let's Find Out, the other show, I was getting about 90% of my guests through direct contact on Twitter. And there came to a point to where it's like almost like they pulled the plug. I couldn't get anybody to respond. And then Facebook was the thing, and then Instagram now. So I don't know. I think every platform has a season
Mm-hmm.
of up and downs, you know?
They must. They must have something, you know.
Yeah, because I haven't tried TikTok yet. For some reason I'm not scared. Like I'm like scared, but I'm a little concerned about, do I even start a TikTok? I don't know anything about it and how to use it. Is it cool to use now or
I guess I don't know when the president decided to pull the plug on it the first time. I deleted it. I was like, ah, it's done. This guy cut it off, and it probably never come back. And like a couple weeks later, it was up again. And then they talked about cutting it down again. And I was like, you know, I'm not even going to deal with it. And look, they brought it back and never took it back down. And I probably missed out on. I couldn't even tell you how much stuff. So
probably? So, I think I should start that. I was been recommended as far as for podcasts to get your name out there to go ahead and do that. I might do that. I might surprise you. I might send you a message on TikTok, say, "Hey, I'm here. What do I do?" So you might have to guide me through the whole thing.
I'll give you. I'll try to help you out. Best to know from then. You know what I mean? I'm sure it changed. Maybe I'll open one again. I don't know. We're all over the place, and it's just so hard. You know, you can only do so much with cross-posted content. You know, because if you post the same thing on every platform, and you come across, yes, you have different people on each platform, but then you have those same people at one point, and they're like, ah, here he goes again. I just saw this on Facebook. I saw this on X. Same stuff. You know. So I was kind of like I got these three, and I got YouTube. You know, like, do I want another one? You know, but I guess it'd be good. I mean, I guess going live on TikTok is like the thing. So
Yeah, I might try that. But you're definitely right. And one of the things I also learned is you can make posts on different social media content. But you got to do a little bit different on each one. Like you said, people get bored of seeing the same post. Like, why should I like it? I liked it already over here.
right.
So now that we were speaking about now 2026 almost over, and you have a few shows, more than a few shows lined up, where are you going to be in 2026?
I got two shows. I got one at the end of the month in Collinsville, PA, and then I have one in September, also Collinsville, PA. I have a couple shows lined up that I haven't announced yet because they haven't finalized, lineups and times and stuff. So I don't even have a flyer to know who I'll be playing with or whatever. But I do have stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised. As a little teaser here, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see me in Morgantown for Halloween. Just saying. So I got my fingers crossed because that would be really cool, to be there. So I have I have a couple more podcasts in September, October, and we'll just see what happens. I'm just right now. I'm kind of in the middle of. I'd like to write a little bit more music and really try to focus on getting this album out that I wanted to do this year that just didn't happen. You know what I mean? In early 2027, if I can.
Man, it's gonna be awesome once you release the new music. And I know that we talked earlier about songs, or depending on how you feel or what kind of message you're gonna put in for that song. What are and I know and I don't like spoilers, and I don't want you to give it all away. But what kind of themes are we going to be exploring in these next batch of songs you might be coming out with soon?
Um, they're going to be more along. They're going to be darker, a little darker, um, lyrically, I think, than the last one. For no other reason, it's just like I said, I write from the inside, and there I have a few people that actually write lyrics and share them with me, and I put music too, that I can feel what they're writing, from really reading it, So I think it's gonna be a little bit more darker vibe as far as lyrics. As far as the music, I don't know. Like Cast a Shadow, I feel like is a pretty good effort, for a first track for it. You know what I mean? This next one's a lot more stripped down though. It's crazy. I made it. It's a lot simpler. The leads aren't complicated. It's just it's effective. You know what I mean? So I really don't know. I don't know how these are going to turn out.
Now, is that more of a when you write the songs and to use the terminology, just want to be a little more simpler, stripped down? Is it less stressful to play that way, or can you still get the same vibe out there as the other songs?
Oh, I can still get the vibe out there. Still, you know what I mean? Take Angry for instance. Angry was the last song that I wrote for GR5. It ended up being the first one in the album. But if you go to any of my shows, I play Angry and You Belong. You see the first two tracks together, and it's how it's played and how gritty it sounds. You know what I mean? To give it that effect, even though it is very simple. You know what I mean? To a degree. You know what I mean? So I think it's not necessarily stripped down and blah. I think there's still an element of punch to it. You know what I mean? It really grab you.
No, and you're correct because it is, I think, a generic terminology to say simplify, but there are some rock songs, and in fact, just last night as I was going down a rabbit hole to find potential guests and started getting into some new music because my playlists are getting kind of stale, Grim. So I had to go out there and really start freshening up my little my gym mix or my highway mix, and I'm quite surprised because I feel that I'm turning back the clock on certain bands that have a very simpler form of hard rock and some metal that it has quite a punch. And I'm telling you, man, it's I'm reliving the past, and I feel like there's more bands out there now than ever before.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of bands, and especially in the Pittsburgh area, there's a ton of bands. Everybody's fighting for space, just trying to get heard. There's only so many venues. We have venues closing, you know what I mean, or closed already. And like the Hard Rock in Pittsburgh, it closed. I was thankful I played it, before it closed, but it closed. There's a whole bunch of them that shut down. They're putting a brand new music venue in, but I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be for like mainstream, music, or if it's going to be like mixed up for both, or how that's going to work. But man, there is a lot of bands in the southwestern PA area. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm gonna start digging into that now. And you almost kind of read my mind. We're talking about venues and the way things changed in the last, I'm gonna say since 2020, since COVID, everything's kind of been flipped into a different directions where you're seeing places that you would never think it would have bands play or having bands play. Out of all these locations that you've been at, you performed at, what's the one that stands out the most that you thought was the least likely place to have a musician play?
I don't know about least likely. I think it's not very promoted. One of the places I played at, I played the Rock Room in Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna tell you that is the most insane place I played. Insane, and I loved every minute of it. I did, and it's like not necessarily in the city, and it's not like there's no big signs. I didn't even know anybody played there. You know what I mean? Until I got called one day, and I went and played there. And I'll tell you what, man, I had an absolute blast there.
And that's how you never know where you go, right? You know how people are gonna react, what kind of night you're gonna have. But it's good to be surprised. That's a good surprise in a great way. Now, this is where I get to one of my favorite parts of the show. Actually, also the listeners are good friends on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. They love this part of the show. And it's when we actually get to play one of your songs and the one that we chose together. is Cast a Shadow. You talked about it a little bit earlier on this episode, but before we go, would you mind letting us know what that song is about, and we'll take it home from there?
Um, Cast Shadow is kind of like an introspective of like time over time with me, you know. Like I always felt like, you know, I wear this makeup. Let's use it as an example. So I use this makeup. It's kind of frowning, you know what I mean? It's stark, you know. And I kind of feel like the inside of myself is like that a lot of times, even though I'm, you know, smiling and, you know, with talking to people and stuff. I kind of feel like there's something just, I don't know. I don't want to say wrong, but not quite right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sound depressed, but I'm not. But I am kind of, you know, it's weird. It's just a weird feeling, you know. And when I wrote the track, you know, a lot of the stuff in there is about, you know, heading into darkness, you know, feeling the pains of memories, you know, by using metaphors, you know, using the rain, using different things, you know, and it's just, it's like a mix of things that I think about, you know, from past things. I mean, I've been alive for a while, you know what I mean? I'm an older guy. And so I have a lot of, you know, memories from a lot of things, and kind of put it together and into a format to make it sound like that. And I actually got the song title. The inspiration from that was, here's a band for you if you've never heard of them. They're actually called Cattle Decapitation. I know it sounds crazy, but the song that I listened to it opens up so heavy. And at some point towards the end of the song, he actually says the words "cast a shadow," but how he sings it with the lines that he puts in there, it just grabbed me. And I was like, man, that is absolutely cool. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm gonna make a song, Cast a Shadow, and the album's gonna be To Cast a Shadow. So it's gonna be like a play off the, you know, the lead off track, play off the words of the, you know, album title. And I was gonna put it towards the rest of the music was gonna be along those same formats. You know what I mean?
I do. And inspiration comes in the most unusual places where there's a song. It could be on a road trip. It could be from a book or a movie.
Mhm.
Everything makes sense when you strip it down, and then we can find out more about you on grimrockandroll.com, right?
Yep.
And also on Instagram
Mm-hmm. At GrimRock and Roll.
at Grimrock and Roll. Grimrock, my friend, thank you so much for returning to the show. I look forward to catching up with you again, maybe in person later this year, but definitely next year. So I know you got more to say, and 2027 will be our year.
That's
And,
right.
oh, yeah, brother. This is Grimrock with Cast a Shadow on bonus Overdrive Wednesday right now. Thank you, brother.
Welcome to the TCC Research Channel, home of Mysteries Unlimited TV, Let's Find Out with Diego, and the free documentary playlist. I'm Thomas Markle. Here on this channel, we explore Appalachian mysteries, cryptids, UFOs, folklore, and the paranormal. Every week, you'll find new episodes of Let's Find Out, bonus Overdrive, live stream discussions, and original documentaries. We talk with authors, researchers, investigators, musicians, and people with real stories to tell. If you're into unexplained encounters, strange phenomenon, and deep dive conversations, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and join us. There's always something new to explore.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.